Now, more numbers out today. Factory orders are down, but car sales are actually up. And Janet Yellen goes before a congressional finance committee to discuss Fed policy and the economy. But before we discuss that, let's see what's been moving the markets. With me is Kathy Boyle, president of Chapin Hill Advisors. Kathy, welcome to the program.
Nice to be
here.
Nice
to have a female economist on the program.
Well, not an economist, darling.
Okay, well, you know what I mean.
Advisor.
Advisor, let's talk about the markets. What's been moving the markets today, in your opinion?
Well, you know what? It's greed or fear. Right now, it's greed. You know, it's running up. We've made a big comeback from the downturn in August and September. Best October
absolutely
in years, right? 8-point-something% on the Dow and the S&P, 9 and change on the NASDAQ. Most people would be happy with that for a whole year, never mind a month. But it's really, we're getting to the overbought status. However, if if the S&P stays up in this range and doesn't break below another 50 points, say from here, probably going up. Continue to go up. The trend is up at this point.
Okay, what's in your opinion? What's been really buoying the market? Any particular?
It's really about the Fed again. It's really we're still onto the sugar high. You know, it's credit that's quantitative easing across the world. PBOC. You know, doing things over there. Europe, Draghi saying, yes, you know, we're going to keep propping up the markets. It's not spurring real growth. We've got underlying economic weakness, as you can see by factory orders today. So, you know, the market right now is just part of its a rebound, part of it's, you know, we've been taught to buy bargains. Every time the markets come down in the last 5 years, it's been a bargain. So buy in the dip and you get rewarded. So we've gotten trained.
And the market's really factored in that potential interest rate hike in December, were that to happen. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, we're not now. At this point, it's a very low probability. It's less than 30% that the Fed's going to raise in December, despite what they're saying. Now you're seeing the predictions come in. We're starting to see the numbers go up for March of 2016. So a lot of people think the Fed can't because, remember, the Fed is terrified of deflation. Deflation sounds great to the consumer. Things are cheaper,
absolutely,
right? But from a corporate perspective, it's very bad because they can't get their pricing power. So they start to lose money, especially if they bought goods ahead of time. Now they can't get the prices. So deflation overall is what the Fed is terrified of. So in a deflationary environment, it's very difficult to raise rates because it'll just force things down. Again, it just adds to the problem. So the Fed is in a tough position right here. They really can't unwind what they've created. They haven't really created jobs. They haven't really created an economic stimulus. They've just made it very easy for a lot of hedge funds and a lot of Wall Street people to get rich.
Well, let's talk about who is to actually take the credit for what we see is effectively underlying relatively successful economy. And in terms, is it the investor? Are we talking about the consumer? Is it the government? Is it the Fed? Who's responsible?
Well, our poverty levels are going up sky high. We've got more people at the same time. We've got welfare rates going dramatically up. We've got an aging population. BCA just came out with a report the other day saying, I forgot the title of it, very clever, like time is up or something along that lines, basically saying the consumer is going to be going downhill in the U.S. because we've got an aging demographic, got baby boomers. How many of your friends have said, I don't really need the 6-bedroom house any longer. We're going to go to a condo, or we're going to go down to Myrtle Beach, or we're going to go someplace other than the big house that they raise the kids. The other problem is we have 60% of 25-year-olds living at home and 30% of 30-year-olds still living at home. They're not buying homes. They're not getting married. They're not having kids. So the production, the consumer is not really there. And we've got an aging population. So where you can make money is probably on health care.
Let's talk about those numbers, because we've obviously had manufacturing in terms of factory orders down, but of course car sales are up. So what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, well, you know, the car companies have done an awful lot of incentives, you know, and it's really cheap financing. And as Americans, we're addicted to cars, you know. Not me. I have an old car. I have a lot of dogs, so there's dog drool on the windows. But the average person leases a car, gets a new one, and there's a lot of incentives to move that. Also, light trucks are going up, which you wouldn't think would make sense. But with this oil coming down, a lot of people are not as concerned. So car sales, they're at record highs again. We're looking at, we had 10.4 million down in 08, and we're probably going to hit 18 million this year.
Wow, gosh.
So 80% increase in just 5 years.
That's significant. Any movement on the hedge funds? We talked about that earlier.
Well, you know, the hedge funds, some of them, like Bill Ackman, Pershing, has been hit. You know, a lot of hedge funds own the same stocks. And Valeant Pharmaceuticals have been in the news since August. It's had a dramatic fall. It's one of the top 10 positions in an awful lot of hedge funds. So Pershing has actually a negative 19% return year to date. And he's a $15 billion fund, so there's going to be other funds like this. You know, they've been struggling to make it, and part of what happens is the elephants try to get out the door at the same time, and the door crashes down. So that's what's happened with some of these pharmaceutical stocks.
Okay, very quickly, if you can wrap up for us, what do you think the Congressional Committee on Finance will discuss with Janet Yellen in terms of...
You know, they're going to say, you know, is the Fed at the helm? Are these regulations really being forced? Are the banks too big to fail? You know, did we make a mistake in bailing them out, et cetera, et cetera?
Great. Kathy, listen, thanks so much for the
Great to be
analysis. I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, just ahead, pipeline politics and Activision swallows Candy Crush. We'll be right back.